The New York Police
Mm-hmm.
Department probes Brooklyn. Are we good? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Everything?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
So, uh, sh- New York Police Department probes Brooklyn migrant shelter after two overdose deaths. Okay. So keep in mind that while New York is setting up vending machines for free crack pipes, and the mayor is floating, as the media has said, the idea of letting migrants live in private residences of New Yorkers. So they have two issues rolled into one here, right? Obviously, the migrant crisis and the drug crisis that they're dealing with. And this is the best part: the men who were staying at the Humanitarian Emergency Response and Relief Center at Jefferson Ave in Bushwick. Okay. So if the Humanitarian Emergency Response Relief Center wasn't a euphemism enough, it's in Bushwick, right? Are you familiar with Bushwick? It's basically the hipster central of the world, right? Like Bushwick, Williamsburg, that's where all of
I am not. No.
I guess, the Zoomers, the coffee shop, avocado toast, young millennials, old Zoomers, just
Okay.
the beanie, the guys where they have the beanies that just kind of float on the top of their head, and these scraggly beards and cigarettes and all that stuff. That's literally where they live. So it makes perfect sense, because you would also think that that demo is all about the migrants, right? Now, we I don't want to turn everything into a race issue, but I think it's pretty clear that most of the people who are advocating for this are white. Neither here nor there. It gets better. The men, identified as Anthony Jose Luna Ruiz of Venezuela and Johnny Jose Torres of Colombia. So these are the people that Eric Adams has called asylum seekers. And I'm no expert. Geography is not my strong suit, but if you were living in Venezuela and or Colombia, you'd have to go through several countries before you end up in the United States, and that alone would not make you an asylum seeker, right? As we go through it, we'll see who's dealing there. Chief of Detectives James Isaac said, if there is continuing drug dealing, if there's any sort of hierarchy, that will be a part of our investigation. So you've let these people into the country illegally. You've put them up for free in a hipster neighborhood, even though they went through 5 different countries. You call them asylum seekers, and they are now flooding your streets with drugs. As you put vending machines for crack pipes on the streets and ask residents of New York to house these migrants. I mean, does it get any more? I don't even, what's the word for this? It's not dystopian. I guess it is kind of dystopian, but this is the peak, bro. These are all of your issues basically in one. And do you think, last thing here, as per my trademark, do you think that these migrants are going to be on board with all of your weirdo transgender nonsense? Just out of curiosity, that's an honest question. Do you think that the same people who wouldn't even eat the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches you tried to give them because they wanted the food of their native land, do you think they're going to be on board with you trying to turn the little anchor babies that they gave birth to in the migrant hotels? You think they're going to allow you to cut their junk off? I mean, give me a break, bro. This is just to the max. This is the extreme nature of what we're dealing with.
Well, the thing is that this is just what you asked what to call it. The thing is, this is just happening everywhere now. Every single city, I would wager around the world, suffers from the same problems, from the same policies at this point. And what those policies are seem to be anyone can come in for any reason, and we have to give them preferential treatment no matter what it costs, and at the expense of everyone else. So it doesn't matter if you're going to Australia or Sweden and Texas and New Hampshire and whatever city in North America or the Western world you go to, you are expected to foot the bill for a person just because they came from a different country. It's a
Yes,
very
but they wouldn't do
weird.
it for you. Do you think they would do it for you?
No, it's if I came from a list of pre-approved countries, then yes, they would. I just don't understand how that's supposed to be sustainable and how that's logical. It's all, Eric, as we all know, it all comes back to the we can't be mean. We can't be mean. We can't ask a person, or we can't disagree with a person's reason for coming to this country because that might be mean. This is what it all comes down to. We're, we're at the bottom of the slide of, everyone's a winner. And my kid's not bad. My kid's not bad at sport. Everyone's actually a winner. We're at the bottom of the slide of that, because what that leads to is you can't call anyone bad. You can't call anyone wrong. You can't dispute my truth, my lived experience. You can't say that what I came from isn't exactly a rough enough situation to have to migrate across 3 countries and skip 4 of them and come to America. You can't disagree with anyone. You can't say that I don't feel like a woman. You can't say that I'm not a man. You can't say that the WNBA sucks. It's all just comes back to paralyzing people about being mean. And it's this weird, like, communism has come in forms of, we're all poor, the farmers are screwing us over, we need to seize their land and, take it over for ourselves, and that'll be the way we do it. That's the traditional way of communism, create the underclass. But the way they've created this underclass is just in the Western world today, is just by saying, hey, you're a victim and nobody's allowed to tell you that you're not a victim. It's been so much easier than civilizations have had to do in the past, in China and Vietnam, um, even in Venezuela, in Africa, in communist Russia and the Eastern Bloc. It was way harder to just institute communism there. But here in the Western countries, they found out that people don't want to be called mean, and or they don't want to be called racist, they don't want to be called sexist, all these different things. And that's all they had to do, was convince people that it was mean to say a bunch of things and to not give their money through their government.
Right? You can even, what, a couple weeks ago or maybe a month or two ago, when the people were protesting the migrants being housed in school gymnasiums, nobody wants this anymore, right? Except for the political ruling class. And it's funny because they also kind of say the quiet part out loud when you hear people like Nancy Pelosi even say, well, who's going to pick the crops? Or notoriously, Kelly Osbourne, was it? A number of years ago when she was on The View saying, if you kick out all the immigrants, Donald Trump, who's going to scrub your toilet? And they don't even realize how bad it is. But I was hoping, really quickly, if you can bring up the article once more, because I want you to look at the caption under this photo, under the second photo in the article. Pull that up, please. Yeah, at the bottom of those people camped out. Can you scroll down just a tiny bit? Yeah, and the caption there. Okay, so yeah, look, it says activists and migrants at the Watson Hotel at West 57th Street. Now, if I'm not mistaken, 57th Street is also known as Billionaires Row. Okay, right? This is where quite possibly the most expensive real estate in the world. So activists and migrants, of course, illegals, are outside of the hotel on 57th Street in Manhattan on February 1st, protesting migrant movement from the hotel to Brooklyn. Think about that. They come here, they demand you let them in, they demand you give them a place to stay. They don't want your nasty peanut butter and jelly because we want the empanadas we had back at home. And now we're going to protest you putting us under a different roof, right? I think that's courteous, right? Just like when I think it's courteous if somebody shows up at your front door and you don't have space for them, you take the time and you take the effort and the money to put them in an Uber and send them to a house that says they need company and they want more people, and they're mad at you for that. It just never ends, bro. Like, how are you going to protest the place they gave you for free on Billionaires Row? You don't want to leave anymore. But you can imagine that if you miss 1 month of rent, well, I shouldn't say 1 month of rent because they do make it incredibly difficult for a landlord to kick anybody out. But your credit's going to take a hit. You have to show, 3 months of, pay stubs. You have to show ID. You have to show tax returns. You have to, you have to jump through. You have to make, and I've said this before on the show, but in New York City, 9 times out of 10, you have to prove you earn 40 times the rent annually. We're not, in most places, it's double the rent or 3 times the rent. It's 40 times the rent. So a regular American who wants to rent an apartment has to make a bare minimum of like $100,000 to live in an awful apartment with the view of a barbed wire fence. And these people have the nerve to protest the place that they've been given on Billionaires Row. Give me a break.
Turn it up, Jordan.